Hello, community. I'm Selena.
I'm Marissa.
I'm Melissa.
And we are with Abundance of Hope Center. So we're back with Just Look Vlog. And today we are talking about the wealth gap.
Yes, the wealth gap. In King County or just like Seattle area?
Just the wealth gap. So if King County is what comes to you, for me, when I think about the wealth gap, I think about the national wealth gap. And I think about how even, since the pandemic has started, the wealth gap between, what Black and brown communities had before compared to European communities, European American communities, it's grown even more.
Right.
If we want to go down to Seattle, like the numbers are so concerning.
It's staggering. I actually just saw that now there's a Seattle Times, I think, article that just said that the median income raised to like either 100,000 or 200,000. I think it raised to 200,000. And if you look at the wealth gap, that's why I asked either Seattle or King County specifically, because if you look at the wealth gap for Seattle area or even King County, like it's staggering. Like the average income for like Black and brown households, I would say African American because they do African American, then Hispanic speaking, and then Asian, and then white. So for the Black and Hispanic speaking households, they're literally staggering small. It's like 30,000 or less is the amount. And so this is from a place that has a median income of 200,000. For who, we ask.
Right.
For who?
And it very quickly showed for white households.
Exactly.
And for European descent
the
households.
only other demographic.
They're the only ones other than, I think it was Asian, specifically Indian.
Right. And they also don't break down the Asian, demographics either, because then there's Pacific Islander, and then there's there's Chinese, and then they're not breaking it down by the different ethnicities, and then it's like you kind of see where even in that it's the more melanated redacted groups that kind of have that same wealth gap as European Americans.
Right. So for me, like when I'm thinking about the wealth gap, I'm thinking directly about how this is relating to homelessness, how it's relating to unemployment, how it's relating to the further criminalization of these communities that we see on the low end of this wealth gap. And so for me, it is systemic, and I do see how policies are creating these wealth gaps as well.
Yeah, why don't we ask Melissa? We literally did not even
introduce her. So this is our new executive director. Her name is Melissa. You may see a resemblance.
A slight resemblance. So I think with the narrative that's going on with Seattle, with their crime is up and just exploding in Seattle, which is the narrative that you'll see on the news and on all the news articles and whatnot. And I think what's missing is the fact that crime is based off poverty, right? The more poverty you have, the more crime you're going to have. And I think if we look at what crimes are being committed, you'll see a lot of articles on people stealing stuff. They're stealing food, they're stealing jackets, they're stealing survival needs, right? So if someone, and we see situations where people are selling drugs, okay, well that again is an attempt to get income, right? People aren't leaving their 6-figure jobs to go sell drugs. No one's doing that. So people are being forced to feed themselves, to take care of themselves, and they're going to do anything to do that. So if it means stealing something or selling some drugs to survive or to feed your family, you're going to do that. So,
and really that just feeds more into the wealth gap, because then that person is either incarcerated, so now they're off the street, they can't make an income at all. In fact, now they're going to be costing tax dollars because you have to pay.
And their household is now affected.
Their household has also lost income. Like, it's just the whole, it's so systemic, so layered, so macro, so micro. Like, we can talk about it on so many different levels that it really just boils down to more systemic racism.
I think it boils down to opportunity, right? So if someone doesn't have opportunity and they're not given opportunity to go to school, opportunity to go to college, opportunity to know someone who can get them, a really good internship where they're paid, which leads to a higher paying job, it's just a cycle that if they don't have that available to them and they're locked out of every other avenue, what do you expect?
And
it's
then,
kind of like an animal, you know, that
Right.
isn't going to attack you if it has its regular food sources, but when it has absolutely no food source, they'll even eat their kids if they have to.
Well,
you
for
know?
me, it's
So-
also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, for me, I'm saying like, yeah, it's absolutely that, but it's also like how racism interacts with the systems as well. Because like when you're talking about kids in school, like I'm thinking of examples where Black kids are saying like, I didn't have a pencil, so then I got detention. So then I lost the after school
Yep,
job
and
that I
that whole
had.
domino
So now
effect.
that I can, you know what I mean? So it's like when you have so many challenges that Black and brown youth are facing, so many risk factors that not only the communities are facing, but then the youth are facing. And then when you add on top of that the responsibility culturally that a lot of these youth have, like the wealth gap is directly affecting their every single day.
Right.
The life that they're living, the resources they have available, the choices that they're able to make for themselves are all being affected by this growing wealth gap.
I think that it's important when we're talking about Black people, when we're talking about the wealth gap, we need to kind of bring to the forefront that our wealth gap is a little bit unique from everyone else's, because our wealth gap comes from the fact that we were like owned by
Well, for me,
Enslaved.
the thing is, like,
we're enslaved and owned by a portion of society.
let's
right?
break down what wealth is. How do we generate wealth? You get wealth from businesses,
Capital.
employment,
Black people weren't allowed to have. Black people
capital,
weren't
real
allowed to have.
estate.
Black people weren't allowed
And
to have.
we are seeing, like, we'll see current examples of these, like the Wells Fargo not giving home loans to Black Americans. Shout out to y'all, Wells Fargo.
But even
with the
going
systemic
back,
racism.
even going back
Other-
from like if a bank isn't involved, going back from the fact that, you know, when America started with giving everybody something. They gave white people something, Asian people got something, everybody got something to get started, to get their ball rolling, but Black people. Not only did we not have something,
But we were the ball.
something, right? We
Right, yeah.
literally were something. So when you
capital
sit
that
back
was
and you
used.
talk to white people who are successful, white people that own homes, they're gonna tell you that they got money from their parents, who got money from their parents, who got money from their parents.
Oh no, I was
And we
recently
look
told
at-
us because they work harder.
Okay, they worked hard at cashing the check that their parents gave
Right.
them, that their parents gave them, that their parents gave them, the houses that are passed down, everything that's passed down from generation to generation where we had nothing and that we were being passed down. So I think that it's in order for Black people to ever get on the same level, there needs to be equity. We need to find a way to get Black people equity.
And real
equity.
reparations.
So I'm not saying equality, because if you give everybody the same thing, the people that are below are never going to get to the same level. You need to give equity. So you're giving people what they need to survive. You're giving people what they need to thrive. And America has given everybody what they needed except Black people, and that explains the huge wealth gap. within
Right,
the
and
Black
have
white
even
community.
going so far as to make sure that we don't gain the capital and the wealth by, you know, so many. And we'll just say the Tesla,
Yeah, right, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all
what is
the
it
other
called,
examples,
Centennial
Black
Valley
Wall
or whatever. Like,
Streets.
there's so many. The wealth gap is because of rampant white supremacy.
Right, but right now, because of the wealth gap, white people are suffering too. Like, white people are downtown, and, you know, and they're getting assaulted by,
Yep.
you know, people with mental health that aren't getting resources. So it's like, this is affecting white people too. So when are we going to get to the point where white people are like, you know what, they're right. Why not have our counterparts get what they need so everybody can be successful? When are we going to get to the point where white people are going to stand
I was gonna
up
say
and
that's
say,
a question for the
when we gonna do that, white folk? When we gonna do that? Let's do that.
That is a great question. Let's equitably distribute resources so we can balance out that wealth gap. And I think we should end things there.
Yeah, I think if we address equity, it's going to benefit everybody. It's not just going to benefit Black people. It's going to benefit Black people, white people, Asian people, cats, dogs, horses. It's going to benefit everybody. It's going to benefit America as a whole and the community as a whole.
Say that.
All right. Deuces. Episode 1. Stay tuned.